You're listening to Zap Night, a video game review podcast. Join your hosts as we review video games from all systems and all genres. Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Zap Night. I'm your host, Danny.
I'm your co-host, Kaylie.
We are on episode 80, and we are talking about Elebits.
We're inching closer to 100.
I know, it's crazy. I mean, obviously we're not going to make it to 100 this year.
No, yeah.
But like, towards the end of next year, we'll be pretty darn close.
Next year around this time?
I mean, we still have 20 episodes. That's 20 months. So, I mean, we have a ways to go. But we're getting closer. Anyway, today we're talking about Elebits. Now, we have played Elebits before for a thrift shop game. Back in 2018 was when we played.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's been a while.
It's been on our list for a while.
Well, we played it for a thrift shop game because you had found it at like a GameStop or something for
a long
super
time
cheap.
ago, yeah.
And the cover's like really cute and really artsy. And then we turned it on and played it for a little bit, and it was a fun game. Like, it was genuinely an interesting game. Now, I'm sure a lot of you who are listening probably haven't heard of Elebits, but it basically is the perfect game for the Wii. Like, it was designed for the Wii.
Hidden little gem.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
It really is. And it's really cheap. Like, you shouldn't have, if you have a Wii laying around and you want to play it, you shouldn't have too much of a problem finding the game for like $15 at most, unless something's changed that I'm not aware of.
Which is possible.
Well, I mean, look at Chibi Robo. Like,
Yeah.
Chibi Robo spiked in price over the past couple years. I don't know why. I mean, it's a good game, but man, like, it's like $120 now. Like, what? Anyway, Elebits is not Chibi Robo. Elebits is a Wii game developed by Konami in 2006. It's only on the Wii, though they made a sequel, I think, or some sort of secondary game that is on the DS, or maybe it's the 3DS.
I'm not sure. I did see it, but I didn't actually
I
did do my research.
But I know they made a sequel for the DS or 3DS. I think it might be the 3DS. But the premise is basically you have to collect these little creatures called Elebits with a laser gun
Pew, pew.
machine. And it's like a collector, essentially. Like,
You're shooting them to collect the Elebits.
it's a first-person shooter.
Yeah.
I mean, essentially, it's a first-person shooter. It's not what you think about when you think of first-person shooter. You think of, like, war games and, but it's a first-person shooter. You're just doing something vastly different. So, Elebits are these small creatures that coexist with humans in this universe. They have a little intro with the game where they're like, back many, many years ago, the Earth was a dark place to live, and the humans were suffering and can't barely function, and then a bolt of lightning came down and Elebits were everywhere, and the Elebits had powers to be able to heat things and provide electricity, and so the humans and the Elebits grew to coexist. And now in the era that the game takes place, the Elebits are powering all electronic devices, and basically they live hand in hand with humans. The main character of the game is Kai, and his parents are Elebit researchers. And they know everything about Elebits, and they have a machine that they use to shoot and collect Elebits. But one day, a storm rolls through, and a huge lightning bolt strikes the Earth, and all the power goes out because the Elebits get scared and go into hiding. Kai's parents leave to go find the source of the issue, and in the meantime, Kai is very upset that he can't watch his TV, so he begins to collect the Elebits.
Well, he kind of has this, like, resentment towards them.
Right.
And it upsets him that his parents, like, these Elebits are keeping his parents away from him.
Right.
And, yeah, he decides to go around and collect all these Elebits. He goes and finds his dad's, like, ray gun or whatever it is to collect all these Elebits to try and, I don't know, help out maybe.
I don't know what his goal is. I don't know.
Yeah.
But he sets forth on this mission within his house to collect Elebits. Another interesting thing is that Kai thinks that the Elebits going into hiding like this is part of it's his fault, because just before that he had made a wish that the Elebits would just disappear so his parents would have more time with him. So I think that, maybe that's part of the reason why he's going off on this adventure. But in any case, he starts off in his room collecting Elebits. Then he goes out into the hallway collecting Elebits. Then he goes to, like, the downstairs living room area, into the kitchen. He goes into his parents' room, collecting all the Elebits. Then he goes outside into the yard. He goes into the shed.
We have a little, like, mini boss fight in between there too.
Yeah, and that's kind of,
it's kind of like raising questions as he's going along of what's going on. There's this big Elebit. I've never seen that before.
And I don't feel like any of these questions are ever really answered or addressed in any way. But yeah, like, as you go, you experience these, like, big Elebits that resemble elements. Mm-hmm. So, like, you first fight the sea Elebit in the house. You fight the sky Elebit in the streets.
Wind,
maybe.
Air?
Whatever.
Well, in any case.
When all the stuff starts floating.
Yeah.
Then you follow everything towards the carnival, and you fight the ground Elebit. And then you fight
fire?
I don't think there was a fire one, maybe. In any case, long story short, you fight all these
Bosses.
big boss Elebits, and you knock them down, and you collect those as well. And that's kind of the whole point, is that you're traveling from your house towards the source of the outage, which for whatever reason seems to be, it seems to be at this carnival,
like,
amusement park.
Yeah.
Mainly because all the Elebits are running in that direction. And it's like they're hiding, but they're also running towards this direction, almost like they're under a trance of some sort. But as you follow the Elebits towards the amusement park, you find that there's one Elebit that is absorbing them all, creating a big monster Elebit called Elebits Zero, or
I think that's what they ended up calling it, or something like
Zero Elebit. And you fight the Zero Elebit, and his Elebit energy goes into a robot.
It's a Gundam.
It is, yeah. You fight the robot Elebit, and then when it finally breaks down, all of the Elebits that he absorbed scatter, and he's just this little tiny Elebit, and he's sad and lonely because he's different than all the other Elebits, and Kai befriends this Elebit, takes him home, and refuses his parents to be able to research on this Elebit. But Kai also reunites with his parents, the electricity comes back on, and the world is happy once again.
The end. Yay!
The Zero Elebit, it seems, from what little bit of, like, reading through the game that we've done, it seems like they show up periodically, but there's only, like, one in the world at any given time. So, and it has something to do with this electricity, this lightning bolt. But again, like, that correlation isn't explained. The big boss Elebits are not really explained.
There is a lot of plot holes and things that just kind of don't make sense. but I think the main point of the game is what you're doing, which it's not a puzzle, but it kind of is puzzly. But the story falls short, but like, I don't know how to explain it. Yeah. What did you end up giving the story?
I gave it a 6.
I gave it a 5.
Fair.
I like that there is story. It's a cute concept. It's just, like I said, there's a lot of... It seemed a little absurd that the parents were just like, yeah, dear, go ahead. You could die.
Be safe. Good luck.
Like, he's out
We're
there.
on our way, but good luck.
Like, when you're in the house, it makes sense. His parents are gone, and you're just doing all this stuff in the house. And even when you go into the streets. But, like, when you progress farther into the game where things get harder, you could legit get... This kid could have died several times. And his parents are like, we're coming to help you, son. Keep going. Like, why wouldn't you tell him to go back home?
Well, aside from that, like, there are Elebits, like, legitimately throwing stuff at you. And they're taking control of, like, miniature tanks and, like, shooting energy balls at you. Like, yeah, you're in danger. This 10-year-old child is in danger. But he's not without his tools. This gun is also like a gravity gun where you can pick up items and throw them around to kind of defend yourself. Yeah. So, like, this is a powerful tool.
Yeah,
but
that
still,
a small child has.
Exactly.
Then there's like no people. I feel like that could have been easily explained to just...
Well, at one point they're talking about when the Sky one was happening and there's like cars and stuff floating all over the place. At one point in the dialogue, it says something like, "It's amazing none of the people ever woke up." Like, well, yeah, it kind of is. Like, they actually state that in the game.
Strange.
And yet it still isn't like... fleshed out. It's weird. But that's my biggest problem with this whole story. So I'm glad that there's story because it really does give you insight onto why you're doing the things that you're doing.
Right.
And it gives you an end goal.
It gives purpose to your gameplay.
Exactly. But there is very, very, very little in terms of story progression as you're playing. Like, every now and then you get a little clip of a story, but unless you sit and read through the, like, story log, do you actually understand what's happening? And even then, like, all the way up to the grand finale, it's just, like, all these questions of, what's with this big Elebit? Why is it here? I didn't know Elebits could do this. I collected that Elebit, but where did it come from? And there's no answers to these questions along the way. He just keeps asking these questions, and that's it. Like, they're just...
What a way to just get by with, like, not having to explain it. Just ask the question, acknowledge it's a question, and then don't answer it.
Right. It's just funny because from our perspective, and having played many games now, when a game is specifically showing you these questions, you expect to think that the game has an answer for these questions, because that's how storytelling works. Like, if you start a story and you're like, what's the secret of Pokemon? And then you start telling a story about Pokemon, you expect to have the answer to that. But no, this game has nothing like that. It's just question after question after question, and nothing's left explained. It's just... well, here's the Zero Elebit who's kind of causing the chaos, but there's no explanation. Like, the Zero Elebit was sad and was collecting Elebits and causing havoc on the town. Like, I don't understand. I don't get it.
Again, it's flawed. The main focus of this game is the gameplay. It's just the story is supposed to be complimentary. And sometimes if it's complimentary, it might not always be good.
Still, though, there was story, and it was... okay. It was there.
Yeah.
It was there. It gave you a reason for playing the game.
Yeah.
Moving on to graphics, I think this was the highlight of the game, honestly.
So... segue from story to graphics. During the story that you get, you don't have cutscenes, but you have like
these
pictures,
illustrated.
beautiful illustrations. They're really cute.
Almost presented. Well, actually, it's presented like a storybook,
which I think you are reading a story.
You are reading a story. Yeah, I think so.
Yes, but like the color schemes, how they went about, like the art style of these illustrations, was kind of whimsical.
It reminded me of the
Precious Moments.
Precious Moments, yeah. The art style looked very much like the Precious Moments characters. But overall, I mean, aside from the cutscenes, the gameplay, like, okay, it wasn't like realistic in graphic terms, but
thing.
It's highly detailed. Like, if you go and you look at a bookshelf, almost every single item on that bookshelf was movable, and you could pick it up and rotate it and throw it, and some items would break. Not all of them, but some that made sense would break, like vases and boxes, and some items would break. So, like, because you have this gravity gun, you can pick pretty much anything up in the whole game and throw it around. Like, there are some that you're picking up entire buildings and throwing them around. Cars, you're flying through the air. So, like, it's really cool to see all of these different items, so many items that are fully 3D rendered, or, 3D rendered.
Yeah.
And you can manipulate them in the game, and that part is really cool. And, you're essentially going around and making this huge mess of your house because you're throwing all these items around.
Which is kind of satisfying.
It is, yeah.
The Elebits themselves, there's multiple. They only palette swap, like, the main Elebit, which is... There's blue, yellow, and pink,
and there's,
I think.
like, reasons why they were doing it.
Well, it makes sense. But you still get a decent variety of Elebits and their own functions.
And you start realizing when you come across Elebits, like, oh, I need to collect those orange ones because they turn into big Elebits that throw stuff at me. So those are first.
Certain ones power your gun, and certain ones is just getting your... Because you're collecting wattage, I think.
Yeah, we'll talk about that a little more in the gameplay, but yeah, that's... each Elebit kind of does something different depending on what you're collecting.
I thought they were... Which was your favorite Elebit?
Probably the purple ones that kind of look like Mew.
Yeah, those were
we were
really
calling
cute.
them Genova Elebits, but yeah. The ones that could, like, teleport, and I called them... I referenced them as Mew because they kind of look like Mew, but also they, like, make a little bubble when they roam around when they roam around the level, and when they're in the bubble, they're protected from the laser. So, like, you can't collect them unless they're distracted. And that's, I don't know, it reminded me of Mew from, like, Pokemon Snap.
Yeah, I can see that. I really liked the little, like, hidden mouse ones.
Yeah,
they had, like,
ones.
The little, like, rare ones you can occasionally find. Although, I'm gonna be honest, I loved them all. They were all so really stinking cute. They've got
they're, like, ugly way.
They've got, like, these little high-pitched little sounds that they make, and there's... You get these cookies that you can use to attract them, and they always make this sound. It is so adorable. The cute factor of this is really, cute. But like you said, with, like, the detail of, like, there's a lot of objects. And a lot of, like, different objects. Not just a bunch of plates and a bunch of this.
Yeah, no, and it makes sense. Like, when you're in the room... When you're in his room, you've got a lot of, like, toys and, like, things on the ceiling that you can interact with. And then you go down into the living room and there's, like, plates and, like, food and pots and pans in the kitchen and stuff on the tables and popcorn and,
the amusement parks. You could actually play with some of the machines. That was really cool. So a lot. It really was.
They really put the work in to make this seem... like a world that you could really interact with, and I appreciated that. Speaking of levels, there's 28 levels in total. At least, there's 29 playable levels, and each level is unique, but not each level is unique location-wise.
Yeah.
There was a few repeating locations, and but the challenge has changed. So, like, as you're playing, this is kind of gameplay too, but I really wanted to highlight the way, how many different varieties of levels there really were. So, like, you had the house. What?
Sorry, I don't know what you gave it for graphics.
I haven't said yet.
Oh,
we haven't moved to gameplay yet.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were segueing into gameplay.
I was just saying that topic was more gameplay.
Sure.
But I wanted to highlight how many levels there were.
Oh,
and
I see.
The variety of levels.
Sure.
You had the house, you had the outside, you had the street, you had, going to the amusement park, you had the amusement park itself. All these levels were very unique. They had their own, like, set of items that you can manipulate. They had different... just the atmosphere worked in each area.
Which one was your favorite?
Probably the amusement park, just because there's so much to look at and interact with. The house probably looked the most appealing.
I think I liked the house. It was kind of a pain, but like there's shelves, there was no like halfway done, like just random like stuff you couldn't move, just static. Like they legit had stuff stacked and a lot of stuff where it made sense, and
by the time you're done with the level,
house.
By the time you're done with the level, the room or whatever you're in is just a disaster zone.
Trash.
Like, it's just a mess.
But that's kind of satisfying.
Yeah,
you ever just want to, they have those places you can go to where you can just smash plates and stuff. Yeah. That's kind of what this is like. Yep. Just trash the entire house. You're mad? Slam around some Elebits.
So, graphics, I gave it a 9 out of 10.
Oh, I was struggling. I wanted to give it a 7, but I think I want to bump it up to like an 8. I think.
Oh, okay. All right, yeah.
Yeah.
Moving on to gameplay, we've already kind of talked about it a little bit, but you have this gun that you can manipulate the world with. And it's not just moving items, but you can also like turn on faucets and push buttons on electronics. But all those things require you to have a certain amount of power or wattage to be able to utilize those. And the only way to gain wattage and strength for your gun is to collect Elebits. So as you collect Elebits, you gain wattage, and the more wattage you have, the more things you can interact with in your environment. And, after you collect a certain amount, switches become available, the lights turn back on, and the more, obviously, the further along you can go. So, like, doors will open up. Like, for example, you start off with 0 watts, but then as you are collecting Elebits and there's a door that takes, 10,000 watts to open, once you hit 10,000, you can open up that door and move on. So that's part of, like, the goal. Really, each level has its own goal of collect so many watts within a certain amount of time, but then they also have limitations too sometimes. Like, you can only break so many items within the level.
Yeah,
or
you can only make so much noise.
Right, yeah. And at some point you get like a health bar too, and you can't get hit more than I think 5 or 6 times.
Which again, so dangerous.
Yeah, I know. And there were a few times that we died.
Yeah.
By Elebits.
By Elebits. Death by Elebit.
So, I mean, that style is really interesting, but it also, I think some of the balancing wasn't quite right, because there were a lot of levels that collecting those watts within that amount of time was really difficult.
There's at least 2 levels I can remember where we really kind of struggled on.
Yeah, at least 2.
Yeah.
And it seemed like when we were playing, because we played it together, and we would sit down and we had sessions that we were playing together, and it seemed like we would get to a level where we were stuck, and we would just play it like 3, 4, 5 times, and we're like, you know what, we're done for the night.
Yeah. And
then we'd go to it the next time, and we would blast through that one really quick, and then get stuck on a different one. Just made it really frustrating, but I mean...
this game requires a lot of focus. Like, my eyeballs were, like, red by the time we would finish playing. Like, it definitely is a game that you want to take your time on, like, just because it's... Well, and there's, like, about the graphics, there's so much stuff and so much detail that you really are fine little things, these little itty bitty dots that you're shooting with your gun too. It's just so much.
The Elebits are so tiny in the world that you're working in that trying to focus and hit each one of these little Elebits is not easy. It really isn't. And then you're fighting the time limit, which is probably the biggest struggle because there's so many that you have to collect in such a certain amount of time that like that balance isn't quite there. Like you have to play a level so many times to get the flow.
Yeah.
And that's where the puzzle element comes in, where like you have to do things in a very specific order to get all the Elebits needed to complete the level, but you don't really know what that order is until you've played the level 2-3 times. So that's part of what it was for us with the learning curve, is each level you had to kind of figure that out. And it helped us like to communicate that, like, hey, when I played,
this worked better.
Make sure you get these things and look behind, those items, or look for the picture frames, that kind of stuff. So that communication helped.
Yeah.
But yeah, sitting down and playing in stretches of like 3 hours or so was tough. It was tough. It was tough on the eyes. And really the trigger finger too, because you had to hit A or B to collect them, and that was on the Wii remote. That's kind of like tough to just constantly be firing.
Yeah. Sometimes the movement was a little rough. I'm sure that's partly the Wii.
Well, and you get stuck on stuff really easily, and
oh man,
it's not very easy to turn around.
The hitboxes on some things, some of the big stuff, like you could clearly see between things, and you'd be pushing to select an Elebit behind something, but you would be hitting the hitbox of the thing the Elebit's behind.
Yeah. So, for example, you have a Christmas tree. You can see under the Christmas tree and kind of behind the Christmas tree. So if you are looking at the Christmas tree, you're shooting an object behind it, you can't go through the Christmas tree because the game thinks you're trying to pick the Christmas tree up. But if your gun's not strong enough, you can't pick up the Christmas tree, and it just like the Christmas tree lights up red, and you can't get the items behind it. So you have to either go around it or wait until you're strong enough to pick the Christmas tree up.
It's frustrating too because you can see your cursor is not on the Christmas tree. It's clearly on the Elebit you're trying to shoot, and it's still grabbing that box.
Yeah.
And it's visually it's irritating just because you're like, I should be able to do this no problem.
That's probably the most frustrating part of the gameplay, was those hitboxes, for sure. I mean, the level design was like the frustration of the puzzle with the level design was there, but like the level would be so much easier if some of those little things were hashed out a little better.
The lag.
Oh yeah. Yep.
And it's kind of a double-edged sword. Well, it's great, but it's not great. When you have so many items or so much detail, it would be beautiful if it all flowed really well. But when you're like trashing a level, especially if you get the vacuum power up, or just siphons everything into your gun, or towards your gun anyway, stuff is just flying everywhere, and it slows down as you're trying to watch. You're on a time limit.
The game is really good at memorizing and tracking where all these items are, but that takes up resources in the Wii, like hardware resources.
Yeah.
And that tracking slows the system down to a crawl sometimes. And like you were saying, some of the power-ups would make it even worse.
Yeah.
And to talk about some of those power-ups, you can get throughout the level, there's multiple different types of power-ups. There's a laser power-up where you can
select multiple Elebits instead of one at a time.
Exactly. There's a protection shield power-up that will protect you from getting hurt. There's a silencer one that will make everything really quiet, so you can like break glasses without the decibel counter going up, depending on the level
requirement.
That's a little bit better, but there's a random one that will randomize your power-ups.
Nice.
And
sometimes.
It seems like more times than not, I was getting the stupid like sound one.
Yeah, when it barely ever.
It's not gonna help me at all.
They barely ever. I feel like they utilized it maybe 3 times,
3 or 4. Yeah, not very often.
Thankfully, because honestly, I did not like that.
Right.
It was mostly in the house where it made sense because you don't want to be making a mess. Like, you don't be breaking your mom's vases, and you don't want to be too loud for the neighbors who are sleeping through all of this, apparently.
There's a super strength power up.
Yeah, that's
where
nice.
you can, it gives your gun like super power to lift items, and that was insane. Like, sometimes it's like you're going through the level and then you get that power up and all of a sudden you're like Superman and you just throw cars around. It's like, yes. And then the 30 seconds are up and then you can't do it anymore.
The most frustrating thing about those is breaking them to activate them. Oh, I forgot about the cookie.
Well, I haven't made it there yet.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that was it.
No. We also have the vacuum cleaner.
Yeah.
The vacuum cleaner creates like a tornado with your gun.
It doesn't suck up the stuff, but it sucks up the Elebits.
It sucks up the Elebits, but like the stuff in the area like gets blown around like a tornado would. And so like the room that you're in just gets demolished, but you're finding all the Elebits and you're sucking them up. So, like, that needs to be part of it, because the Elebits will hide in objects that need to be shaken sometimes to get the Elebits to come out. And so, yeah, the vacuum cleaner is shaking those items, but also the Elebits are coming out and you're sucking them up. It's overpowered for sure, but it makes you feel awesome when you're going around the level and you're just like vacuuming. It's like just chaos, just pure chaos.
Well, and sometimes it's such a relief to get those.
I know.
It's like, oh, thank goodness I needed this break.
Yeah, I know. There is the cookie, like you were talking about. The cookie and the electrocutor thing. I don't know, the like star.
Oh, or it stuns them?
It stuns them, yeah. So the star will stun the Elebits, and the cookie will make the Elebits get attracted to them. And those can give you watt bonuses if they're in those states.
Yeah.
So obviously you want them to be in those states to get the watt bonuses, but like that's not always feasible to...
I didn't even focus on that.
I know,
it was too busy trying to get everything.
I mean, there were some times where the cookie came in handy because the cookie would pull the Elebits out of items.
Well, especially like in the house where it's a little more cramped.
Right, yeah, you use a cookie and all of a sudden you've got like 20 Elebits on the floor and it's like, oh, I didn't know. But I think that's all the power-ups, right?
Yeah, I think so. But yeah, breaking them was a pain.
Yeah.
Because they wouldn't always activate. You would just throw it at something and it would just bounce off, and then you would lose it.
Well, to activate the power-ups, you have to, like, smash them, and the only way to smash them is to hit them against items or the ground or the wall, and most of the time it was okay, but every now and then it, like, wouldn't happen, and you're just, like, slamming it around, nothing's happening. Or there's that, like, one area in the amusement park where you throw it against a wall and it will like vanish through the wall.
That was bad.
So, I mean, there was some graphical issues there, but I mean, overall, it's not terrible. Like, it functions. We made it through the game. Yeah. It's a functioning game. It's just there are some items and elements of the game that is faulty and buggy.
The biggest hindrance, I think, of this game is that they did not think it through when they put the time limits.
Yeah.
Because it makes sense that you would want to spend a long amount of time for these big areas, but like, some of these levels were 20 minutes long and we were failing. And like each time, that's another 20 minutes. Then an hour has passed. Next thing you know, it's been 3 hours you've been working on the same level.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where we would just start over halfway through because it's like, well, we're obviously not getting where we need to.
Like, it got to the point, because it takes so much focus, it got to the point where we're just like, we're tired and this is going nowhere.
Yeah,
like, we need to just stop and get back to it next time we get together and try again.
I think if they wanted to... I understand why it's so long. You don't want to break up the levels, but if that's the case, they needed to have, even if it's just a rare chance of getting an increased time.
I think that there's a couple things that could have made the gameplay better. You're right, an increased time like power-up would have been handy. Or removing the time altogether would have been fine. Maybe like up the wattage by like 10% and remove the time. Like, yeah, it's going to take me, you know, maybe a half hour to do this level instead, but at least we're going to progress.
Or just have more, like, instead of the time to make it more difficult. I hated the vase, like having to not break stuff, but just even different things would have been. That way you have a chance. You have a chance to fail the level, but at least you can take your time and go through it instead of destroying everything as quickly as you can.
Right. Yeah. Also, if they kept the power-ups. Because the power-ups that you collect only last 30 seconds. So if they either let you keep them, or in some cases keep them, in some cases have them last only the 30 seconds. Like the vacuum cleaner is so powerful, 30 seconds makes sense.
Right.
But like the multi-selector thing, have that a little more hidden.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
Then let us keep that indefinitely.
Absolutely.
Because not every tool, but I think some of them like that would have helped.
Or if you could power up your gun to multi-select after so many watts, that would have been... Yep. It just... We needed a little bit more help because instead of being fun, it was just frustrating after a while.
And probably the worst level we had was like level 20 or 21. Where it was the amusement park on the stair. You start on the stairs.
That was level 27, I think. 6? No? Oh, maybe not.
Maybe.
I don't know. It's been a blur.
I don't remember. Exactly what level it is.
We spent so much time, like hours, for sure.
You start off on these stairs, and then you have to do everything on the stairs to unlock the next area, and then you have to do everything in that area to be able to unlock the next area with the Christmas tree, and it's just like...
That Christmas tree was so cute, though.
It was, yeah. No, everything was super cute, but you're in such a time crunch that you have no chance to sit and, like, look at it. And that's the whole problem, is that you had to do all these things in, like, 20 minutes or 15 minutes or something like that, and it's, like, a ton of watts, but if you didn't do everything in a very specific order, you're not going to make it. And we did it probably 8 times, and you think 8 tries, at least, minimum, maybe 10, at, like... 20 minutes apiece, that's a lot of time spent on this one level.
I think it was more. It was absurd.
Yeah. Speaking of, I mean, we put 14 hours and 22 minutes into this game.
It was much longer, rest assured. Oh no, I wonder if they count all those times that we failed.
I mean, the counter on here feels about right.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, it seemed like a lot more time than that. But I mean, we got together maybe... once a week. That's 4, maybe 5 or 6 times.
6 times, probably.
And each time was about 3-4 hours, give or take. So, I mean, that's about right. But, you know, these levels that are repeating, if we'd have been able to do those a little more efficiently out of the gate, it would have been a lot less. When you look this game up online, I think it said, like... 8 hours or something like that. Which is why we doubled it.
We kind of wanted to do this game because it was like, oh yeah, it seems like it'd be a quick level.
We should be able to just knock it out in a couple days. It should be fine. You know, it was a lot more than that.
Yeah. Oh, although I will say the hardest level was that one level with the stairs, and that had a specific order.
Yes. Yes. We didn't talk about puppies.
Oh yeah, those were my favorite.
Those were your favorite?
You know,
they're funny. Technically Elebits.
We were talking about our favorites, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, I know that the pink one was one of my favorites, but I couldn't think about it was the puppies. They were my favorite, because they were so adorable.
The puppies, to give you reference...
They look like dinosaurs. We're calling them puppies.
They're Elebits, but they're spiky Elebits. And you can't collect them, and when you click on them, they like
spin and attack you.
They spin and hit you, and if they hit you, then you lose a life point.
Health.
Yeah, a health bar, whatever. And so obviously
they're like attracted to your gun laser. Like your pointer.
And when you read their description, it's like they love you so much and they just want to play.
The description made it so much better. Because for a while I thought they were just angry. No, they just want to play.
Like anti-Elebits or something that you're not supposed to click on because it makes them angry. No, they just love you.
I thought it was just like, you know, you're collecting watts. I thought it was like negative energy Elebits or something like that. But no, they were just happy little puppies.
Yep.
And they were so cute.
They would chase your cursor around the world, and especially if there's a lot of them, they're all over the place, and they're black with these little like pink spikes or blue spikes,
the blue ones too.
And they blend in really well with Elebits, so you click on them a lot, and then all of a sudden you got spikes flying at you, and you're like, ah!
There's several times I was like, no, don't touch those puppies, no.
Watch out for puppies. But yeah, they jump around a lot like puppies would, and that's why we started calling them puppies.
Those are my favorite, for sure.
The boss fights,
those are cool.
They were fun. I honestly, they were more fun than the main levels, really.
Yeah.
They made you think a little bit. They weren't super easy, but they weren't overly difficult. The time limit was reasonable. I mean, it was like 10 minutes.
Oh, yeah, there was only one boss fight. We ran out of time, and it was the last one.
Yeah,
so,
it was. Yeah, and the last one had 2 phases.
Oh my gosh, and they gave us a break on that. I was like, so appreciative.
I would have done it if they needed me to do it a second time. Like, I felt like the first phase I had down pretty well, and then the second phase with the robot, like it took me some time to just figure out what I was doing, but once I figured it out, like I'm like, yeah, I could do the 2 phases in 10 minutes, it's fine. But then you start it up again, and it's like, no, you don't even have to do the first phase again.
It makes you
jump right to the second phase.
Oh, that's so I appreciated that so much.
But yeah, in general, like the boss fights were kind of fun. There was the one, probably the worst one was the first one with the water, where they're like it's like you shoot the one big Elebit, the boss Elebit. He breaks up into a couple smaller ones, and you shoot those, and they break up into smaller ones, and then you shoot those, and they break up into
invisible.
tiny ones. And then they're like these tiny Elebits flying all over the place, and you're trying to catch them all, and and like you got to shake everything to pick them all up. I think we had all but like one a couple times, and then I think you finally got it. That was probably the worst.
Yeah.
And then there was the one where you had to just dodge all the stuff that the air one was shooting at you.
That was okay.
Then there was the one where he kept like running at you.
Oh, yeah.
And then he would like shoot lasers at you, and then he'd run at you again. And that one wasn't too bad. You had to pick him up and throw him against the wall. I feel like there was another one too that I keep forgetting about. But then the final one kind of incorporated all of those elements.
Which was cool.
And, you know, you kind of had to do the dodge thing, but then you also had to pick up items and throw it at him, and you had to do that timing just right. And then the main boss, the
Zero Elebit?
Yeah, the final.
The Gundam?
Yeah, the Gundam one. You had to, like, unscrew all of his panels to reveal the Elebit inside, and then you pull the Elebit out, and like that's the end of the fight. That was fun.
I think that one was my favorite just because it was so clever.
Yeah, it was smart.
Really cute.
It was a different way of doing the boss fights that we have been doing, but not so different to be like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
It was like, once you point your cursor at
it's pretty self-explanatory.
the robot, it's like, oh yeah, you just gotta turn it, and then it's like, oh, we're unscrewing these things, and then you've got it, you know.
So what did you give gameplay?
I gave it an 8.
I give it a 7.
Oh. I mean, you know, it was good, but it's not like
it needed
fantastic.
It needed help in some areas, but
it was
still a good game. Again, we were trying to beat it within a month, so I think for us, it's like we had a lot to complain about because everything was such a hindrance. But if we were just taking our time playing a level like a day or whatever,
I feel like if we were playing it more casually, where we play maybe a level or two and like replay it a couple times and just like try and get everything, it would be fun to just casually play this game.
Oh,
but playing it the way we did, I think it was harder.
They also had the nice bits at the end, or like they have goals of finding hidden objects, which was kind of cool. So like,
yeah, so it
can do this,
the life of the game.
You can do this just kind of relax. Like, I just want to do a little puzzle. Like, this would be nice to just go find all the stuff.
On top of the therapy of throwing crap around.
Yeah, seriously.
I mean, it really is a fun game to just throw crap around.
It's satisfying hearing some of that glass break. It's slam it down.
Unless it's that level where you can't break the glass.
Yeah, that's frustrating.
There's like a pyramid of champagne glasses. And if you get too close to that thing, the whole thing falls and you ruin... I think you only have like 15 glasses that you could break, and all 15 are sitting on that table with the pyramid of champagne glasses.
One of us broke that pyramid, I think, and won that level still.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're right. There was one that I lifted up a bookcase and it broke like 15, like almost like 10 items.
All but the one. There's like one left.
Yeah,
like, no.
And I like squeezed it out. I'm like, I got this.
I did like, though, I was thinking about that, one of the levels, and how there's some things like you need to put the popcorn in the microwave and put the chicken in the oven and pull the ice out of the refrigerator, or the freezer, but so that stuff was cute too.
Yeah, I like that too. It goes back to those interactions. Like, yeah, you can push the buttons, but some of them need specific things done. Like in the carnival too, you had the bees that you had to put on it was a pain, but like it gave you something to do outside of just go over here, push a button, go over there, push a button, go over here and push a button, which was a lot of that. But there were some things that if you wanted a little extra watts, you could activate the microwave and have popcorn.
The buttons was kind of fun too, because some of them you had to pull down because it was a lever, and some of them you had to twist. You had to twist your Wiimote, which was cool.
And some of them you had to turn on and wait for that. Like you had to wait for timers. The dishwasher. So once the dishwasher was done, then the Elebits would pop out of it. So, it was kind of neat. It was fun to think about that, of like, okay, I'm activating this now, but I got to come back in a minute to pick up the Elebits that pop out of it. I don't know. Like, it's so funny this way that, like, it's such a clever way of playing the game, but then, like, they did some things messed up and it made it more difficult than it needed to be. So like I think if they were to just clean up a few of the concept items, it would have been a lot more fun. Like regardless of how hard it was to get the Elebits behind the trees or whatever.
Right.
Like if they killed the time limit altogether, maybe give you bonuses for completing it within a certain amount of time.
That would have been nice.
But like, if you completed in 20 minutes or if you completed in an hour and a half, you completed it. You did it. You did what you needed to do. You opened up, unlocked everything, and got all the watts. I think that would have been more fun. It would have been a better use of our time than replaying the same level over and over and over again. Well, we beat gameplay to death. Is there anything else?
I don't think so.
Let's move on to music. I gave it a 7 out of 10.
I gave it a 5.
The voice acting is
that was bad.
Terrible. Terrible.
It was really bad.
I don't understand when you're delivering lines that are literally one line at a time. Why is it that voice actors talk like this and it sounds really bad and they just don't know how to talk? I just don't understand. Like, as a normal human being, if you're going to be delivering lines, you read the line a couple times, you say the line. And if it doesn't come out perfect, that's fine. Do the line again.
Yes.
Like, it doesn't need to be this big deal. Just like, if you have a line like, my mom and dad went to the store to pick up groceries, you don't want it to be like, my mom and dad went to the store. You want it to be like, my mom and dad went to the store to pick up groceries. You want it to be
I will say, though, it would be more fitting if it sounded like they were actually reading out of the book, because that's kind of what it sounded like.
That is exactly
we are going to the grocery store.
It's just...
What?
it's terrible. It's terrible. I applaud them for having voice acting at all, because a lot of games didn't. But if you're going to have voice acting, make an effort to just deliver the lines decently instead of just reading one word individually. Makes no sense. But each level does have its own music. Like every level that we played, and we only really played the story mode level. But each of the 29 levels had their own music, and you could go through at the beginning of each level, you could pick what level music you want to play. If you want to play the level music for that level, it's already default. But if you want to play maybe the first level music, you could go back to level 1 and choose that level music. So, I don't know, that was kind of nice.
Yeah, I get it. I guess it's just... It didn't leave an impression on me, except for this one song.
It definitely wasn't fantastic. It was nice to be able to choose what you wanted.
I feel like, well, okay, I take it back. I will give it an extra point because the last ending song was really good.
Yeah.
But I feel like with this kind of a game, with how whimsical it kind of is, they really could have made this even more amazing if they had made the music a little more whimsy or just...
Yeah.
I don't know. It just kind of fell short in my opinion. So...
Yeah, I mean, there wasn't any... other than, like you said, the ending, credit song that they had... I mean, that was a nice song, but it was still very just like Japanese anime-esque song.
I don't know.
It wasn't
was like,
anything fantastic.
To me, it was like a full song. Like there was a lot of lyrics to it. It wasn't just the same la la, like same verse over and over. It was just, I think it was a nice song. And I think if they had I guess they kind of did make the music a little bit like that last song, but just it had the whimsy that I was looking for, I guess. So, I don't know. I felt like the story probably fell short the most, but then it was probably music. So,
yeah. I mean, they did have a lot of nice sound effects, like the Elebits who... Yeah, exactly. Also, just in general, like general sound effects, there was a lot of like picking up items and throwing them had audio to them, and breaking the vases and that kind of stuff. Honestly though, the sound that is still echoing in my head is the sound of the big bears. Like, the sound of the... That's the one.
You heard that and I was like, no!
Kill him!
Get the teddy bear!
So there are these little orange Elebits in the game that if you anger them or get too close, they absorb other Elebits nearby and transform into a big Elebit. And if it transforms into a big Elebit, it will start picking up items and throwing them at you. And if you get hit by an item, you lose a health thing. Yeah. So obviously you want to take these bears out as quickly as possible.
And that was difficult to do too.
You have to like squish them with items or hit them against the wall. Basically beat these Elebits until they break up back into their little Elebit forms, and then you can shoot them to collect them. And they were just a pain because typically there wasn't just one. There was like 7.
Yeah, I know.
And then they're all throwing stuff at you.
You hear all 5 of them. It's like, oh no! Shooting everywhere.
No.
Which is too bad because when the teddies were like their regular small size, they were really stinking cute.
I know.
Oh man, yeah, those teddy bears sucked. The Genova music. Did we talk about that already?
Oh, no, not at all. Yeah, I think it was the stair level.
Yeah.
The level where you start off on the stairs.
I think it was the next one.
I'm pretty sure it was that level. Because it's like halfway through, it would start off with like, just like from the Genova song from Final Fantasy VII. I don't know why.
I heard it too, yeah.
I don't know why they chose to use that, but that's all I could hear.
Just a melody that they chose. I mean, it fit because to me, when I think about that level, I think about the Mew guys, and there was something like I could associate because they kind of looked alien to me, and Genova is an alien, so the music kind of fit these Elebits to just being kind of alien almost.
Yeah.
Cute.
So overall, I gave it an 8 out of 10 for my overall experience.
Same.
Fun game. Like, I'm glad that we played it all the way through. I'm glad that we experienced more of this game than just the thrift shop that we played. But there's a lot of things that they could have done better. But not a wasted time at all. Like, I had a good time playing the levels.
Yeah.
I don't think there was really any levels that... Maybe some of the early levels in the house that it was just like a one-time through, but a lot of the levels, it was like you would play it and get most of the way through it, but then you ran out of time, so then I would pick it up and I would finish it, or vice versa, So a lot of the levels towards the second half of the game, we were playing all, each level together. So I think that kind of made it fun too. And there was that, those moments of cheering on each other when you're that close.
Yeah,
it's like just gotta find those elements. I liked that too. So it definitely is an experience to play with, a partner.
I'm glad we played this together. Yeah. And it was nice. Like, don't touch the puppies.
Yeah, watch out for the puppies.
There's a bear. He's evolving.
Or as you learn bits and pieces of the game, because again, 20 minutes of a level is a long time to sit and pay attention to someone else playing a game. So it's nice when you are holding the controller and your friend's already played part of the level, for them to be like, okay, try this, try this, try this. These are the things that I learned. Let's see if you can do it better.
Well, plus, having an extra set of eyes looking out for power-ups, man.
Yeah.
Because there were times where like, man, I just need this power-up now.
Power-ups, and oh my gosh, there's some Elebits. I saw them go under that bench, go pick up that bench. Little things that an extra pair of eyes, it does help.
Trying to find the buckets.
There is a multiplayer function to the game. I honestly...
Oh, why didn't we try that?
We did when we played the thrift shop.
I can't remember.
Yeah, we did. I honestly don't remember that at all.
I don't either.
I don't remember. But if you're interested in that at all, go check out our thrift shop gameplay on that. That's on our YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/ZapNightGaming. So if you want to check that out, go find us over there. We have an Elebits playthrough from 2018. It's old, but it's the same game. We're doing the same things. And you can see our genuine first reactions to the game. We didn't play this on Twitch at all. Mostly because we wanted to have more of a chill experience where, there were a couple days where I went over to Kaylie's house, she came over to my house, and we just like cooked food and made an afternoon out of it. And that was a lot of fun, and I feel like we wouldn't have done that on Twitch. Yeah. So it was nice to have that experience. I am ready to get back on Twitch. Speaking of, we're going to be playing Final Fantasy X very soon on Twitch. If I haven't already started by the time you're listening to this. But before I get too sidetracked here, my final score was a 38.
Mine was 34.
34, that's math is difficult. Yeah. 72 or a 7.2 out of 10.
That's decent.
It's a good score. It's not terrible. It's definitely not like our popular games that we've played, but I really like these thrift shop games where we've played the thrift shop game and we liked it enough to make it a full episode.
Well, that's the nice thing about the thrift shop games is you're trying out these potentially crappy games and you find a gem like this.
Yeah,
that's
fully
nice.
agree.
I would have never, I say I would have never given it a chance, but I bought this before we did the podcast.
So you were like, I'm going to like this game.
I saw it was cheap and I saw the cover. I'm like, this is crazy. I'm going to get this.
Something that I would suggest, if this sounds like a fun game at all, go to YouTube and watch the, I don't even know how to find this because it was just like a video that played while we were idle on the menu screen. But there's this Elebit dancing.
It's like a commercial
video.
or something for it.
It really is like a commercial for it.
It's adorable.
It's so cute. Like these little Elebits dancing and they're getting stuck in coffee mugs, and it's a cute little thing to. If you're at all interested to watch this and be like, I think I have to buy this game. I mean, don't get me wrong, the game is nothing like that video, but it's just this cute little, this world seems like it would be a fun place.
Yes. It is adorable.
Good times. I had fun. Speaking of thrift shop games, I've officially recorded 3 thrift shop games.
It's been a while.
Don came over not too long ago. I don't know if you guys remember Don. He's done a couple podcast episodes. He's done other thrift shop games with me too. Great friend of mine. We sat down and did 3 more DS thrift shop games. I'm going to be releasing them periodically over the next month or so. So look forward to those. We're going to be doing more thrift shop games hopefully soon. I really feel like we need to set a day on the weekend and just play 3 or 4 of them. Usually is pretty good. But I really want to try and find more of these gems. I really like this concept of I would have never played this game, and here now I want to play it for a full episode. Even if we backlog it for a while, but we know it's there. We've played that, we know that it's a decent game, and we want to see it to the end. I like that. And we've done it a couple times. I mean, we did that with Donald Duck Going Quackers. That's all I can think of off the top of my head. But
Elebits.
yeah. So, and there's bound to be more like that.
Yeah.
I typically like to play more of the obscure garbage,
we like
shovelware
to talk
games.
about how terrible it is.
I think it's more of a fun experience for people watching if it's a terrible game. But I mean, that's really what it's about. The thrift shop games, you never know. You never know if you're going to find something amazing and it'll be awesome and you'll want to play a full podcast episode on.
Yeah.
So check us out over on YouTube to see more of that. Otherwise, guys, thank you all so much for hanging out and watching and listening to this podcast episode. We're planning on playing Final Fantasy X through the month of... What are we in, September?
Yeah.
So follow us on Twitch if you want to watch me play through that. I would love to hear from you. Say hi. Final Fantasy X might be... We might need more than a month. Well, I don't know. We'll see. We'll have to see. There's a lot of different factors in that on what kind of other shenanigans I get into and if I have time to dedicate, my normal amount of time. But I should be able to get pretty close at least. As per usual, if for whatever reason we can't finish the game by the end of the month, we'll fill in the next podcast episode with something quick and easy so that we can finish up Final Fantasy X for the following podcast episode. But it's rarely more than 2.
Yeah.
I think...
Only one.
Valhalla.
Yeah.
Assassin's Creed Valhalla was the only one that exceeded that, and that was because it's a seriously long game. But guys, thank you all so much for hanging out, watching, and listening to this podcast episode, and we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.